Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Good morning, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Please make your way in. Please find a seat toward the front. About to get started. We want to make sure that everyone has a prayer book. The prayer book says Mishkan Tefillah. I know people up here have them. If you have a book that says Mishkan Tefillah, can you please raise it high over your head? If you have a book that says Mishkan Tefillah, raise it high. Raise it high. Ruben, raise it higher. Raise it higher. Everyone should have a book like this. Look around. Look around. Everyone should have a book like this. You can put it down now. If you don't have a book that says Mishkan Tefillah on the cover in your vicinity, would you please raise your empty hand? Raise your empty hand if you need a prayer book, and one of our amazing greeters will come bring you one. Keep your hand raised if you need a prayer book, especially anyone in Alice's family who needs a prayer book. You can raise your hand, and one of our greeters will come make sure that you have one. And as that's happening, we continue singing together. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. These books open from right to left, since they're mostly in Hebrew. And we open them now to page 192. Page 192. Look in the lower right corner for the numbers. You might be blessed with two numbers, in which case, use the one in brackets. Look for the bracketed page 192 in the lower right. And on that page, you'll see the words in blue, Ma Tovu. Ma Tovu. Ma Tovu. Again, 192, the lower right, the number in blue. Ma Tovu. Ma Tovu. Ma Tovu Alecha Ishkenotecha Yisrael Ma Tovu Ma Tovu Ma Tovu. Let's try singing those words together. Ma Tovu Ma Tovu ביתך, אשתחווה אל היכל קודשך ביראתך. מה טובו? מה טובו? מה טובו? You sound beautiful. מה טובו? מה טובו? Let's sing that 4 more times. מה טובו? מה טובו? מה טובו? מה טובו? The middle of 192. ואני תפילתי לך, אדוני את רצו. אלוהים ברוב חסדך, ענני באמת אישך. מה טוב, מה טוב, מה טוב, מה טוב.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Let's try that again. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
That's what I'm talking about. So we are saying Shabbat Shalom to each other this morning because we are gathered on this day that is set aside from all the other days. It's a special day for the Jewish people. And we're so glad to be with you. We just sang words, Ma Tovu, how good it is to be together in this place. You know, for a couple of years now, it's been on again, off again, unclear whether we could gather in this place. And it's still something to really appreciate and be grateful for that we're together here. And we're here on this day that we call Shabbat. It's really a kind of old Jewish wisdom that is maybe more needed now than ever before, which is the idea that everybody needs a day to take a breath. So right now, I want you to take a breath. Just take a breath. Maybe this week has been stressful for you. Who had any kind of stress this week? Raise your hand. Okay, all right. And look at all the kids. So also, you know what else about Shabbat? Shabbat is a day with no homework. Did you know that? No tests, no exams, no papers due. Shabbat is a day off from all the things that usually most days stress you out. That's the whole idea, is that we take one day every week to just say, I am exempt from all those things that usually are pulling on me. And actually, one of the ways that a lot of things pull on us is we often have devices in our pockets that, you know, our ancestors didn't have. They're always telling us, you got to call this person back, you got to email this person back, you got to text this person back, you got to check out this post on whatever thing, you got to, right, DM, whatever. So if you've got a thing like that it's there that might buzz or beep or ring or vibrate or remind you of all the things you've got to do in the world, turn it off. Turn it off. We definitely don't want to hear it, but also you don't need it. For the next couple of hours, you don't need it, and that's the whole point. You don't need any of those deadlines or to-do lists or unfinished work or business, because this day is separate. It's different. It's a vacation. And the way we use that vacation is we say, okay, we're going to carve out this space away from all that busyness so that we can do the other stuff that usually gets ignored. What's the other stuff that usually gets ignored? Simply celebrating that we're alive. Sometimes we're so busy we forget. Like, wow, this is happening right now, and it's pretty spectacular. And I have this amazing body, and I have this amazing world to look at, and the bright, beautiful sky today, gorgeous day, and I have friendships and love and people who are so meaningful to me, and I can feel. I don't just move and see, but I also can feel. And maybe this morning you'll feel a little bit, and you'll notice, whoa, I have so many things to be grateful for. Wait a minute, if I were actually to pay attention to that, instead of all the things I didn't get done last week, oh, wait a minute, look how many blessings there are in my life. Just simple things, ordinary things that are pretty amazing. I have so much to be grateful for. That's what we're doing. We're We're taking time out from all that busyness so that we can remember the things that are actually really important, the things that are just wondrous right in front of us. And so we're going to be singing together. We're going to be using this book, and it goes, as Cantor Breitzer said, it goes from right to left. It's in Hebrew. We're going to be praying almost entirely in Hebrew. If you're somebody who doesn't know how to pray in Hebrew, you've never prayed in Hebrew, we're still so glad you're here. And you can pray every word with us if you want, because the words are transliterated right next to the Hebrew. Every single word is spelled out. You can join with every one. And you can see below what we're saying. That's the translation. And then you can see on the left page all kinds of creative ideas about how you could connect to what we're saying. Because even if you totally were fluent in Hebrew, you might look at these prayers and think like, oh, that's not exactly what I would naturally want to say. Okay. So there's other people who had that similar feeling and said, maybe I can find a contemporary way to get us into the idea. And the reason that's important is that you are not spectators. You're not an audience. You're making this experience with us. We're trying to actually change the air in here. We're trying to change what it feels like to be in here. Because if we all sing and if we're all grateful and if we're all getting in touch with like, wow, it is really true, it's amazing to be alive, that changes how the whole space feels. It's kind of contagious. And you're part of it. So you have total permission. You don't have to follow exactly where we are. You can use any words in here that move you. You can use silences. You can use empty spaces. You can close your eyes. You can move however you want to move. Use this time to connect with something that will help you feel more alive, more awake, more grateful, more joyous. That's what this day is about. Lots of other days we focus on stressful things, sad things, injustices in the world. We do a lot of that here. Sometimes I'd even do it on this day. Maybe today I will a little bit, but okay, mostly, the point of the day is to get us beyond that, just for a little break. Just be like, oh yeah, just simply, it's just wondrous to be alive. So that's what we're doing. Now we're gonna say the word God a lot of times. These prayers are all written about and to God. And if you're somebody who, when you see that word, you think like, that's not my thing. I don't actually know what to do with that. Okay, that's okay, because you can translate it. Because the point of that word is to point to something that none of us really know how to describe. And the point of what it's pointing to is that there is awe in this world. There is awe, there is wonder, we are tiny. And what we behold is vast. And we're not even able to conceive of it. So that could be the universe, or that could be time, or that could be love. Okay, so don't get stuck on any of it. Use it this time to do something real for you that gets you beyond all that ordinariness into something majestic. Okay, we are going to continue on page 192 with a prayer that is about the miracle of our bodies, how they heal, how they're intricate and wondrous. And we're going to, though I just told you we're on page 194, we're mostly going to sing words that are not on that page. You're just going to hear the cantor sing them. And then he's going to finish with the last line of Hebrew on that page. And from there, we're going to go into the blessings of every morning. Just ordinary miracles is what they're called. They're just very ordinary things, like waking up. But they're also just not at all ordinary. If we pay attention, that's not at all ordinary. That's pretty wondrous. So let's get grateful.
I thank you for my life, body and soul. Help me realize I am beautiful and whole. I'm perfect the way I am, and a little broken too. I will live each day as a gift I give to you. Can you with me? Thank you for my life. I thank you for my life, body and soul. Help me realize I am beautiful and whole. Help me realize I am beautiful and whole. I'm perfect the way I am and a little broken too. I'm perfect the way I am and a little broken too. I will live each day as a gift I give to you. I will live each day as a gift I give to you, my God. Get ready to oh. A little higher. Oh. And higher still. Oh. The middle of 194. Baruch atah Adonai. Rofeh kol basar umachli la'asot. Baruch atah Adonai. Rofeh kol basar umachli la'asot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lasachli binah lehavchin ben yom uben layla. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivri. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokef kefufim. 200. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who stretches the earth over the waters. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who strengthens our steps. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who clothes the naked. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who gives strength to the weary. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who removes sleep from the eyes, slumber from the eyelids. 202. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who made me in the image of God. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, She'asani ben chorim. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, She'asani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who girds Yisrael with strength. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who crowns Yisrael with splendor. We're now going to do something very special, which we only ever do on Shabbat morning, which is the following. If you're able to please rise. We do that every day, hopefully. But now we're going to invite you to take your prayer book and come all the way up here, right where Rabbi Timona and I are standing. Come circle all the way around us, to our left, to our right, in front of us. We're going to make one big circle. If you're in the back, please gently nudge people forward so we can really fill in this space as we keep going and keep growing. Oh. Keep moving forward. Oh. Sing it a bit louder. Oh. Oh. 2:18. Hallelujah. 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 Again, 2:18. Hallelujah. 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 El bekodsho. Hallelujah. El bekodsho. Hallelujah. Birkia uzo. Hallelujah. Bigvurotav. Hallelujah. Kerokuno. Hallelujah. 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 Sing it louder. Hallelujah. 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 We can do better. Come on. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Take a shofar, hallelujah, take a shofar, hallelujah, never betino, hallelujah, betofu macho, hallelujah, minim be'ugav. Everyone singing, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Louder from the back. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. We can't hear you. Come on. Oh. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, Betzilzelei Shama. Hallelujah, Betzilzelei Trua. Kol Shama te hallelujah. 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 On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's make the walls resound. Come on. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Oh, okay. Hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. You can breathe. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
All right. We got some energy built up there. That was good. So now we're going to take that energy and we're going to make this the friendliest place you've ever been to in Brooklyn. So you're going to find somebody you don't know. You're going to introduce yourself. You're going to wish them a Shabbat Shalom.
And we're going to stay right up here for a few minutes afterwards, so don't go anywhere.
Well done. Thank you for being so friendly. We're going to do something really important. Thank you for being so friendly. You're doing everything here so well. Now what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next is that Alice and Leo are going to receive Talitot. I'll tell you about that in a second. Alice is going to receive hers from her grandmother, Hawk-Weintraub, and Leo is going to receive his from his grandmother, Barbara Weiss. And they're going to come up with their grandmothers. And as they're coming up, I'm going to tell you about this. So what is a talit, you might ask? Okay, a talit is a prayer shawl. It's this. And it can be made of different fabrics. It can be made of different colors. It can be made of different designs. But what all of them have in common, every single one, is these. And they're on all 4 corners. And they are wrapped and knotted in the exact same way, all of them. Because that wrapping and those knots are a formula. They actually represent a code to represent the mitzvot of the Torah and God's name. And these are meant to be reminders for Jews about what it means to live a Jewish life. And so as Alice and Leo place these talitot on their shoulders today, what they're saying is, yes, I have worked really hard to get to this day. They've worked really hard. And so you might think like, okay, this is the conclusion, I did it. But actually, yes, you will see that they did it, but also it's just the very beginning of the rest of their lives living as Jews. And that's what this symbolizes. So they're going to say the blessing, and they're going to come right together here. They're going to receive their talitot, their special talitot from their grandmothers, and then they're going to say the blessing and put it on their shoulders.
Blessing on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Kidshanu B'mitzvotav V'tivanu Lahitatef Batzitzit.
Amen.
And now we're all going to face toward Jerusalem, toward the Ark. We're going to turn to page 224 in our prayer books for Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמך רבה, בעלמא תברח חילותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו, אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה וריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. 226 ברכו את אדוני המבורך Unless you're becoming B'nai Mitzvah today, you may be seated. We turn to page 228. 228. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzeh or uvorei choshech oseh shalom uvorei et hakol. Again, 228. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzeh or uvorei choshech oseh shalom uvorei et hakol. One more time. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzeh or uvorei choshech oseh shalom uvorei et hakol.
Please join me at the top of page 229 in the English. In the beginning, even then, a new light was sown for the righteous, a promise that your light would become the catalyst, first for order and then for hope. Author of language and light, help us to use words as you have, to cast light into dark waters and draw out justice and truth. Baruch atah Adonai yotzer hameorot. On page 230, we come to Ahava Rabbah. This is our prayer in gratitude for Torah. Torah specifically, the scroll and the ark that we're about to see and read from, and Torah more broadly, all forms of guidance and instruction, all ways that we have an inner compass that's seeking out truth and seeking out how to live well and rightly in the world. It's a prayer in which we can recognize in humility how much more we have to learn and how much we don't understand about our world. It's a prayer in which we can also be grateful for all that we have learned and all the teachers who helped us to find our way, all the ways, all the guides who've presented themselves to us in our lives and have helped us to know who we are, all the questions we currently live without answers. This is about the way that we're always, always growing in our understanding and in our wisdom. We pray together.
Aleinu ba'avur avoteinu ve'im שבטחו בך, שבטחו בך, באבו אמותינו, ותלמדם חוקי חיים, כן תכוננו, תלמדנו, עם רחם, רחם עלינו, רחם עלינו, תתן בליבנו, להאמין ולהשכיל, לשמוע, ללמוד וללמד, לשמור ולעשות, ולקיים את כל דברי תלמוד תורתך באהבה, והאר עינינו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, ויתן לבבינו באהבה וליראה את שמך, ולא נבוש ולא ניכלם ולא ניכשל לעולם ועד, כי בשם קודשך הגדול והנורא בטחנו, נגילה ונשמחה, נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך. Near the bottom of 230, והביאנו לשלום מארבע כנפות הארץ, ותוליכנו קוממיות לארצנו, כי אל פועל ישועות אתה, ובנו בחרת, וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול, צלע באמת להודות לך ולייחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. 232. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. 234. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בהם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם במזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם באמת. Cantor Josh, slow down those words. That must mean something important is coming. And it's true. Yachad students, what holiday is coming up this month? Shout it out. What holiday is coming up this month? Passover! Passover. So I elongated those words at the end of our Ve'ahavta to remind us of the importance of that story coming out of Egypt. And as we turn to page 240, we sing Mi Chamocha to a special Passover melody. Mi Chamocha Ba'elim Adonai Mi Chamocha Nedar B'Kodesh Nora Tehilot Osei Pelech Shira Chadasha Shibechu Gehulim Leshimcha Sefat Haya Yachad Kulam Hodu Ve'imlichu Ve'ameru Adonai Imloch Le'olam Va'ed. We rise. Zu Yisrael Kuma Be'ezrat Yisrael Ufedechi Neumecha Yehuda Ve'Yisrael Go Aleinu Adonai Tzvaot Shemo Kedosh Yisrael Baruch Ata Adonai Gal Yisrael.
We turn next to page 242, in which we enter our tefillah, our amidah, our central set of standing prayers in this service. And the first major prayer, which will be on the next page, is about the idea that we belong to a lineage of many generations, going back all the way to Abraham and Sarah. And that these words have been prayed by generation after generation before us, and that we come to this moment as part of that story and are shaped by the people who came before us and made us us. And then we're going in the third prayer, at the end of the prayer, be singing Ledor Vador responsively. You'll hear Cantor Breitzer sing Ledor Vador, and he's going to want you to sing back Ledor Vador. It means from generation to generation, same idea. The idea is that we're not only descendants of our ancestors, but we're ancestors of those not yet even born. And we, in living out the values of Judaism, including, by the way, speaking of Passover, the second prayer is about redemption. It's about the idea that the force of the universe that we're praying to is a force for justice and kindness and compassion, and always looking for whoever is oppressed and on the margins to lift them up. So if we live that way and pass that down, someday, generations not yet born will be praying these same prayers in the same flow of time, flow of generations, with that same aspiration that in their generation they'll move the world, they'll bend that arc closer to justice, move the world more to how it should be. So we join together.
242. Shabbatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Adonai, 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 244. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu V'Imoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכה חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר מושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. 246, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה מתים אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה, לחיות מתים ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתים. 248, לקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וכרזה אל זה, ואמר קדוש, קדוש, קדוש אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. אדיר, אדירנו, אדוני, אדוננו, אדיר שמך בכל הארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, מלכנו, הוא מושיענו, והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם. אלוהי ציון לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גואלך. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גואלך. ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, ירושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו, מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גואלך. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גואלך. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. We continue silently through page 261, using the words we find in these pages, the words we find within these hearts. When we've each finished our prayers, we may be seated. Ay, 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 ay. You might want to sing it on Oi. Ay, 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 ay. We're on page 254. And at this time, I'd like to invite up our Yachad students in 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade to come join Rabbi Timona and me up here. Yes, absolutely. Ruben, bring them up. And you'll need your prayer book. If you want to follow along with the words, you can bring your prayer book too. We're on page 254, and this song that we're going to sing, you may have passed over in your Amidah. You might consider it to be a form of liturgical flyover country. But it's actually really significant if you look at the words. This is about our prayers being accepted as a people, as a community, not just this community, but communities coming together in prayer all over the Jewish world, everywhere, everywhere. We gather on Shabbat. And this is a particularly special Shabbat because we are also marking the beginning of a new month in the Hebrew calendar, the month of Nisan, in which Passover happens, right? You all knew Passover's coming? We talked about it before. You can come closer, Yachad students. Can you come fill in this space? Right over here? Yep, come on up. So this is a song that all of our special prayers this morning be accepted. There's some special words that we only ever insert in this prayer on days like these, which we're also going to include. But that melody that we just sang, that's going to come back a few times, and I'm going to need your help to remind people of how it goes. Remember how it goes? Ay, 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 ay. I don't think they heard you. Can we try it again? Ay, 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 ay. Good, so that might have different words to it, a time or two. It's okay, it's the same thing. 254. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu Ve'amecha Yisrael U'tefilatam Be'ava Tekabel U'tehi L'ratzon Tamid Avodat Yisrael. Here we go. Yisrael Amecha El Karov Lechol Koreav B'nei El Amadecha B'choneinu שפוך רוחך עלינו. Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu Iboteinu. On this first day of the new month, be mindful of us and all your people, Israel, for good, for love, for compassion, for life and peace. Remember us for well-being. Amen. Visit us with blessing. Amen. Help us to a fuller life. Amen. ותחזינה עינינו בשובך לציון. ברוך אתה אדוני המחזיר שכינתו לציון. לציון, 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 לציון. Again, לציון, 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 לציון. Asher Koach Yachad students, thank you for helping pray those words. You may be seated. Way to go.
In a moment, we're going to be coming to our service for the reading of Torah. But first, we have some greetings and announcements from our president, John Horowitz, on behalf of our Board of Trustees.
Shabbat Shalom. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I want to welcome everyone here this morning, for all of you joining us here in person, as well as those of you who are joining us virtually. A special welcome to all of Alice's and Leo's family and friends who are joining us this morning, and certainly a mazel tov to Leo and Alice from all of us here. As always, I want to thank our clergy. Thank you, Rabbi Timoner, Cantor Breitzer, cantorial intern Jordan Goldstein for leading us this morning. Thank you, Rabbi Molly Kane, who's going to chant Torah shortly. I want to thank Mark Flaxer, who's our executive director, and his staff for all they do each and every day for all of us in this community. I want to thank Karen Gerwin, who is supporting us in person, Gabby Sabransky, who is providing sound and online support, and I want to thank Krista Bogatech and Paul Shapiro, who were greeting everybody here as they entered the sanctuary this morning. Finally, I want to thank the Stone Weiss family, who have generously sponsored today's community kiddush this morning in honor of their B'nai Mitzvah. Thank you. Believe it or not, as we've said now a few times, it is almost time for Passover, and we're hosting an engaging and creative community seder for CBE members in the ballroom on the second night of Passover, which is Saturday, April 16th. There's going to be a fully catered dinner, special activities for the kids, and we're inviting as well our friends at Antioch Baptist Church to join us. Please register in advance by visiting the Passover page on our website. Tomorrow at 4 o'clock, Cantor Breitzer is going to be presenting on the legacy of the late composer and scholar, Dr. Jack Gottlieb, as part of the Institute for Living Judaism's Cultivating Our Culture, The Art of Judaism series. This program will be in person in the CBE Chapel and also available on Zoom. Finally, to coincide with our Yitzchak observance during Passover, we're going to participate in Requiem, which is a ritualized grief project and community-driven memorial to honor those that have died from COVID-19, as well as to celebrate their lives. We will be holding a compassion drawing event following Shabbat services on Friday, April 22nd, as well as Saturday, April 23rd. Please stick around for Kiddush and find information about everything I discussed and all the upcoming programming for CBE at our website, which is cbebk.org. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much, John. I want to just add that if you are coming to my class today, I teach a class now right after services, right after we have a little bit of Kiddush, we'll be in my study. Anybody's welcome. You don't have to have come before. It's about anti-Semitism and social justice. All right, so we're going to turn to page 362, and we're going to be looking at our Torah service. We're going to be inviting up people to help us open the Ark, and then once the Torahs are out, and Alice and Leo have them in their arms and are ready to go around the room, they're going to need people to follow them in the Hakafah. So here's what's going to happen. Alice's brother Ezra is going to come and open the Ark, along with Leo's uncles and aunt, Jonathan Weiss, Maurice Samuels, and Sarah Stone. And then Leo's cousins are going to follow in the Hakafah, Luca and Julia Ladner, Emmy Stone, and Benjamin and Noah Weaver. So I ask everyone to please rise.
Ein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai, ve'ein kema'asecha. Malchutcha, malchut kol olamim, u'memshartecha bechol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed. Adonai oz le'amo yiten, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Av harachamim heitiv avirtzonecha et Zion tivneh chomot Yerushalayim tivneh בירושלים, כי בכל לבד בטחנו, מלך אל רם ונישא, אדון עולמים. Page 364. כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני מירושלים. 366. ברוך שנתן תורה תורה, ברוך שנתן תורה תורה, לעמו ישראל בקדושתו.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Adol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadlu Adonai, Shemo Yahweh.
Lecha Adonai הגדולה והגבורה והתפארת והנצח וההוד, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ. לך אדוני הממלכה והמתנשא לכל ראש. רוממו, רוממו, רוממו אדוני אלוהינו וישתחוו להר קודשו. Keep clapping. רוממו, רוממו, רוממו אדוני אלוהינו וישתחוו להר קודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו, כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם עומד. Stay standing, stay standing. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם עומד. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים, על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים. הללויה, הללויה, הללו, הללויה, 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 הללו, הללויה, הללו, הללויה, הללו, הללויה.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We are in the midst of the book of Leviticus here this Shabbat, in Parshat Tazria. We're going to be reading from Leviticus chapter 13, starting at verse 6. If you're trying to find that page in the Torah commentary, so you have, the books we've been praying out of, Mishkan Tefillah, you also have in your pews a book that says the Torah, and you're going to be looking at page 736 to be able to follow along. And we're going to be doing a few different kinds of honors this morning, and we're going to start out by calling Emily Levine for this first Aliyah, and Rabbi Molly Kane is going to be chanting Torah. Emily has been a teacher at Yachad for 5 years, and she is about to depart to go on to her next great adventure. I'll say a little bit more about that soon, but we want to honor her for all that she has given and all the ways that she has led and taught our children. So.
Tamod b'shorachol aliyah Torah.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach. Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol hamim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. V'ra'ah hakohen oto bayom hashvi'i shenit v'hena v'hine keha hanega v'lo fasa hanega ba'or v'taharo hakohen Mispachat hi v'hi beis begada v'tacher v'im paso tifseh hamispachat ba'or acharei heira'oto el hakohen l'toharato v'nir'ah shenit el hakohen Vera'ah hakohen v'hine pasta hamispachat be'or v'timeo hakohen sarat hi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Misheberach avotenu v'imotenu. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless you, Emily, who has taught our children from first grade to 12th grade, who has done everything from set up the classroom to lead children to Europe, who has guided our children to learn the love of Judaism, who has been infectious in her love of Judaism and her joy, who has brought a special spirit of both being so organized such that she's become the assistant director of Yachad and be able to keep things ordered and working, and such that when we traveled together to Berlin and Poland, it was you who kept us on track, who knew what we were doing each day, who guided the children through that experience, which was intense and emotional and also uplifting. May you be blessed with all the heart and energy and love that you've brought to this community, all the wisdom, all the insight about our history and our values and our highest ideals. May you feel all of that come back to you in this next stage. You have wanted to serve. You have wanted to give. You have wanted to work toward justice and to care for the people who are in need in the world. You've been wanting that for years. You've been asking me about how you could find those opportunities for years, and now you have found an opportunity to go work with JDC and to serve our community in the world and people who are in need. And we are proud of you. We are grateful for you. And may all the blessings you've brought to this place come back to you and bless you as you go off on your journey. May you be safe. May you continue to shine. May you continue to love your people and the world and the people of the world. May you continue to do justice. Amen.
Special blessing for you, page 649. May you be blessed as you go on your way. May you be guided in peace. May you be blessed with health and joy. May this be your blessing. Amen. May you be sheltered by the wings of peace. May you be kept in safety and in love. May grace and compassion find their way to every soul. May this be our blessing. Amen. 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 May this be your blessing. Amen. 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 May this be our blessing. Amen.
All right, we continued reading Torah. We're going to now invite Alice to come up to chant. And we're going to invite her aunts, uncles, and cousins for the Aliyah, Avi and Miriam Weintraub, and Carol Hawk, and Steve and Eli and Maya Blanks.
Yamdu hakluim Shabbat HaMitzvah l'Aliyah Torah. Alice is continuing from verse 9, chapter 13, verse 9. They're going to bless it first, yeah?
Baruch Hu Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim, V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Negat zarat ki tiyeh ba'adam vehuva el hakohen bera'ah hakohen vehine se'et levana ba'or vehi havkecha se'ar lavan umichiat basar chai base'et Zarat noshem etzhi beor besaro v'tim'o hakohen lo yaskirenu ki tomehu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'torhenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten HaTorah.
All right, for the next Aliyah, we invite up Alice's parents and brother and cousins and aunt, Henry Weintraub, Susan Hawk, Ezra Hawk-Weintraub, Maria Dami, and Donnie Weintraub also.
יעמדו על משבת המצווה ואחיה ובני דוד שלה לעלייה לתורה. Continuing with verse 12. Chapter 13, verse 12.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten HaTorah.
Amen. V'im paroach tifrach hatzarat ba'or v'chisata hatzarat et kolor hanega meroshov ve'ad laglav l'kol mar'ei einei hakohen v'ra'ah hakohen v'hinei chisata hatzarat et kol b'saro v'tihar et hanaga kulo hafaf lavan tahor hu Uveyom heraot bo basar chai yitzma.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
And now, Alice, in the presence of your family, we call you to Torah as a bat mitzvah. Ta'amod, ta'amod, ta'amod. Abachura bat mitzvah, las bat tzvi v'shoshana, l'aliyah laTorah. Chizki ve'imtzi.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamavorach.
Baruch Adonai mevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. V'ra'ah hakohen et havasar chachai v'timu. Havasar chachai tamehu zara'atu. Ochi yashuv. Habasar chachai v'nepach le'lavan uva el hakohen. V'ra'ahu hakohen v'hinei nepach hanega le'lavan v'tihar hakohen et hanega tahorhu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nita b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yasher koach.
Yasher koach. We say, when someone does something wonderful in a synagogue, we say, Yasher koach.
Yasher koach.
We pause with the Torah in our midst to draw upon its strength, the way that it's been a strength to our people and a light. To think about the people in our lives who need strength and light and healing in particular. And I know that Leo's family is thinking about Debbie's mom, who can't be here, who needs healing, is diminished right now. Her name is Barbara Samuels. We're going to include her in our prayer for healing. Just feel her presence here, even though she can't be here physically. We're going to sing Mishaberach together. It's on page 371 in your prayer book. And then we're going to pause in the middle, and I'm going to invite you to call out names of people you're thinking about, names of people you're praying for, and then we'll fold all those names into the second half of the prayer.
Avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing. And let us say, Amen.
We pray for the people we name now. We pray together.
מקור הברכה לאבותינו. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We now continue reading Torah. We're going to invite Leo's dad, Daniel, to come up and chant Torah, and his grandparents, Richard and Barbara Weiss, are going to come up for the Aliyah.
Yamdu ha-salim Shabbat Mitzvah Aliyah Torah. Daniel is continuing with Leviticus chapter 13, verse 50, which is on page 740. Leviticus chapter 13, verse 50, page 740.
Baruch Adonai Habarach.
Baruch Adonai Mevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Habarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amin. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Virah HaKohen et HaNaga, v'hiskir et HaNega, Shabbat Yamim. Virah et HaNega, v'yom hashvi'i. Kipasa HaNega, bebeged. Uvashti, uva'erev uva'or, lecho, asher yaseh ha'or, limlecha, Tarat mameret hanega tamehu. Bisaraf et habeged, o et hashiti, o et haerev. Batsemer o babishtim, o et kokali haor, asher yeyevo hanaga, kitzarat mameret hi, ba'esh tizareh.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Please come around to this side.
Dan told me before the service that for his bar mitzvah, he only was able to chant Haftarah, so this was his first time chanting Torah. It's pretty impressive. You might say Yasher Koach.
Yasher Koach.
All right. Next up, Cantor Breitzer will be chanting, and we're going to invite Dan to stay here and to be joined by Debbie.
Yamdu halim Shabbat Mitzvah Aliyah Torah.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Mevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amin. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Ve'im Yireh Kohen, ve'hinei lo fasah nega ba'beged, o vashti, o va'erev, o b'chol kli or. V'tziva Kohen, ve'chi besu, et asher bo hanaga v'hiskero shivat yamim shenit. Ve'ra'a Kohen acharei, u'kabes et hanega, ve'hinei lo afach hanega, et eino ve'hanega, lo fasah tamehu, ba'esh tislefenu, bechet et hi bekerachto, o v'gabachto. Ve'im ra'a Kohen, והנה ככה הנגע אחרי הוא כבס אותו וקרא אותו מן הבגד או מן האור או מן השתי או מן הערב.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. And now, Leah, we call you to Torah as a bar mitzvah by your Hebrew name. Yamod, Yamod, Yamod. Abachur bar mitzvah. Yoshua Chaim ben Dvorah Kalil Daniel Yehuda L'Aliyah Torah. Chazak. ve'amatz.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Mevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorah Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim, V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah. Ve'im tera'eot babeged o vashati o va'erev o kol keli or porachat. Wait. Porachat ki ba'esh tisrefenu et asher bo hanaga v'chabeged o hasheti o ha'erev o kol keli ha'or asher techabes v'sar mehem hanaga v'hubas shenit v'taher. Zot Torat negatzarat beged hatzemer o hapishtim o chasheti o ha'erev o kol kelior letacharo o letameo. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam, Asher Natan Lanu Torat Emet, V'chayei Olam Nata B'tochenu. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Yasher Koach.
Yasher Koach. We are now ready to lift and dress our Torah. I want to invite up John Horowitz again to come lift our Torah. And to dress our Torah, we want to invite Alice's uncle, Hawk-Weintraub, and Leo's aunt and uncle, Ali and David Stone. Please rise.
Page 370. Vezot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai v'yad Moshe. Get ready to clap. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Morasha kehilat Yaakov, Morasha kehilat Yaakov, Morasha kehilat Yaakov. Torah tziva lanu Moshe. Please be seated. Except if you're Emily. Emily, you still here? You haven't left yet, have you? I think it might be time to dismiss our Yachad students. Is that right? Okay. And it's a special morning, I know, for one grade in particular, which is very exciting.
Yes, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Special day for our 4th grade families. 4th grade students can go and meet Jess right now. 3rd graders can meet Ellie over there, and 5th and 6th graders are going to meet Abby and Karen in the back. 4th grade families, hang tight for a minute, but at 11:20, 4th grade families, at 11:20, you can make your way downstairs to the rotunda for our Midrash showcase. We'll see you then.
Hey. So on Shabbat morning, we read from the Torah. Every Shabbat morning, we read from the actual Torah, the original text. And then we read how Torah moves through time, how Torah in each generation is interpreted and applied to the challenges of the time. And so one way we do that is we read Haftarah, which is from the section of the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, that's called the Nevi'im, the prophets. And today we'll be reading from the prophet Ezekiel, chapter 45, starting at verse 18, which is on page 1457 of your Torah commentaries.
And this is a special Haftarah because it's Shabbat HaChodesh.
Excellent point, Kinderbreitzer. Right. This Haftarah is about the fact that this Shabbat is it's the beginning of the month of Nisan. And sometimes Shabbat falls on a Rosh Chodesh, on the beginning of a month, but this is the month. This is the month of the year. It's actually in some versions of Hebrew counting of months, it is the first month, and it is the month in which we go free. It's when our people was born as a nation, as we went free from slavery. So there's a special Haftarah reading for this month. And Leo and Alice are going to chant the blessing before Haftarah, then they're going to chant from Ezekiel, and they're going to chant the blessing after.
Baruch atah Adonai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar b'nevi'im tovim v'ratzav v'divrehem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai Habocher b'Torah u'v'Moshe avdo u'v'Yisrael amo u'v'nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek. Ko amar Adonai Elohim barishon bechad lachodesh tikach par ben bakar tamim vehitetat et hamikdash velakach hakohen midam chachatat venatan el mezuzat habayit ve'el arba pinot ha'azara lamezbeya ve'al mezuzat shahar chechatzer chapenimit ve'chein ta'aseh b'shivea v'chodesh meish shogeh umipeti ve'hipartem et habayit. Barishon ve'arba'a asar yom lachodesh Yehiye lachem hapasach chag Shavuot yamim matzot yeachel ve'asa hanasi bayom ha'u ba'ado uve'ad kolam ha'aretz par chatat v'shivat yimei ha'chag ya'aseh Ola Adonai Shivat Parim Vishivat Elim Timimim Layom Shivat Hayamim Vachatat Sil Izim Layom Umincha Efa Lapar Ve'efa La'ayil Ya'aseh Veshemen Hin La'efa B'Shavi'i B'Chamisha Asar Yom LaChodesh B'Chag Ya'aseh Ha'elech Shivat Hayamim Kahatat Ka'ola V'Chamincha V'Chashamen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zor kol haolamim, tzadik bechol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer ve'oseh, ha'medaber u'mekayem, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek, al ha'torah, ve'al ha'avodah, ve'al ne'evim, ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh, shenatata lanu, Adonai Eloheinu, likdusha v'limenucha, lechavod yul tifaret, al hakol, Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim lach, v'varachim otach, yitbarach shimcha b'fi chochai, tamid le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen. Semen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, semen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, semen tov, mazel tov, semen tov. Yehelanu. Now pick it all up. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, ulecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, ulecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, ulecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, ulecho Yisrael. Semen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, semen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, semen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, semen tov. Yehelanu. They were crawling around on the ground very efficiently.
Yes, there was
Impressively,
so much good cleanup happening here. And now you get the sweetness of Torah in your mouths as you hear Torah interpreted by our darshanim this morning. And I have a little stash here saved for Alice. She's like worried that she has to speak first before eating her candy, but it's right there, Alice, it's right there for you. So I talked before about how we read Torah and then we watch it get interpreted in different times, in different places, for different generations. And if you were following in the Torah commentary, if you were following while we were reading Torah, you might have thought to yourself, wow. You would have been it. You would have thought, wow, what are they going to do with this? Did you think that? You might have thought that. So beautifully, Alice has dug into this text, and so has Leo, and they have brought out messages that we need to hear, lessons for our time that are speaking to us. And so Alice is going to go first, then Leo, becoming our teachers today, bringing us their teachings of Torah.
Did you know that the Torah talks about what to do when someone is sick? In the Parsha that I focused on, it discusses what to do when someone has disease on their skin and also why they may have gotten the disease. It tells us how big of a role the priest has in this, deciding if somebody is pure or not. It really surprises me how relevant this is to today with COVID, especially how differently they dealt with disease in the Torah. In a piece written by Rabbi Mike Rothbaum, a rabbi at another congregation, Beth Elohim, in Massachusetts, he notices how the Torah describes the people who are sick as actual people and not just the numbers. He says that in the verse, when a person, Adam, has teratzat on their skin, the first word is person, showing that there's a person involved. It's easy to forget that these are actual people since disease is very scary. It relates a lot to COVID today because there are a lot of dates and numbers of people who are infected that make it hard to remember that these are actual people. But this tells us that we should be remembering these are not just numbers. They're real people who are experiencing COVID with families and lives. And I never really thought about it like that. The Sifra, an early Midrashic work on Leviticus, looks at the verse Leviticus 13:3 and says, "The priest shall examine the affection when the priest sees it." In the verse, it says the word that means to observe, to see, twice. And the author of the Sifra believes that this implies the priest sees the person as a human being and not just somebody who's sick. I think this is trying to make the priest seem like better than a medical doctor, but I disagree with that. I think the reason doctors are doctors is so that they can help people and keep them safe. Doctors would still see their patient as a human being and care for them, because, frankly, anyone would care. I don't agree that priests have more empathy than most people. The incredible care given by nurses, doctors, and even family members during the pandemic shows that people have empathy inside them. The priests in the Parsha are really talking about purity instead of health. Rashi, a French rabbi from the 11th century, says that a person who has gossiped or damaged other people's friendships and relationships has caused others to be alone. Rashi thinks that in my Parsha, people have gotten sick because they've caused others to feel alone, so that they need to have a disease that requires them to be isolated. I think that makes somewhat sense, but obviously now, with modern science, we would never really say that. And personally, I think it's harsh, especially a disease that you could die from. And it does not seem fair to blame the person who's sick on something as unrelated as gossip. In conclusion, this Parsha really talks about sickness as more than just the disease. That there are people who are dealing with it, and maybe there are reasons for why they're sick. It's really important to think about how these are individual people with their own stories and lives. And that was really hard for me to think about, especially during quarantine, when I felt so isolated from everyone else. It was really hard to think about other things that were happening in the outside world to other people. But we need to think about empathy at times like this, and that there are people who are going through the same thing that we're going through. The Parsha looks at disease as an issue of purity, but I think that it connects to the idea that empathy and kindness are what will help us in life. Shabbat Shalom.
Yasher Koach, Alice. Say Yasher Koach. And now Leo.
Part of my Parsha, Tazria, is about skin diseases, but I have chosen to talk about the other aspect of the Parsha, which discusses impurity of women after bearing a child. In biblical times, when a woman had a baby boy, she would be in a state of ritual purification for 33 days, and if she had a girl, then it would be for 66 days. After the purification, the mother had to bring a sacrifice of either a lamb and either a pigeon or a dove to the priest in the temple. I had some questions about this. Why would a woman be impure after she bore a child? And why would she have been doubly impure for having a daughter? Well, I'm not the only one who has questions about this. According to one source, the Torah, a woman's commentary, like modern commentators, the Talmudic rabbis were puzzled by the doubling of the mother's status of ritual impurity following the birth of a daughter. But before I talk about the double purification, one might ask why a woman would have to bring a sacrifice in the first place. Tractate Nida in the Talmud, which was written in the 5th century, asks this question: why did the Torah ordain that a woman after childbirth should bring a sacrifice? It answers, according to Rabbi Simeon ben Yochai, when a woman kneels in bearing, she swears spontaneously that she will have no more children. The Torah therefore ordained that she should bring a sacrifice because she was defying God's first commandment, which was be fruitful and multiply. In other words, why should a woman take an oath that she'll have no more children? What would that do for her? If she swears she'll have no more children because it's painful, that's defying God's commandment. So the sacrifice serves to compensate for her defiance. In my opinion, women should always be able to make their own choices, including about reproduction and whether they have children or not. They should also be able to choose how many children they have. It's awful that in biblical times, a woman's expression of choice was interpreted as defiance, and equally awful that a woman's right to choose is still a debate and an ongoing fight in our country today. In the same tractate, it says, when she has a boy, the mother quickly regrets her oath made while she was suffering the pains of labor. However, for a girl whose birth prompts little celebration, regret at the oath does not set in for 14 days. This ties into the idea that a woman is impure for twice the amount of time than for having a son. A woman having a son would bring celebration, but if she had a daughter, it brought no celebration. This is not only sexist, but also doubly unfair because the woman doesn't have a choice of what gender her child will be. Beth Nakai, a professor of Judaic studies at the University of Arizona, offers a different perspective on the question of why a mother had to spend twice the time in a state of impurity if she had a girl. She said, baby girls arguably faced lives filled with more risks than did baby boys. Girls were sometimes thought of as expendable. In times of need, famine and war, baby girls might suffer hunger and neglect, or even be abandoned and left to die. Perhaps this is why the Torah says that baby girls stay in their mother's care for a longer period of time. This interpretation raises two unfair and biased points about historical treatment of girls and ritual practices described in Tazria. First, that daughters were considered inferior and expendable. And second, in protecting their daughters, that women were considered doubly impure. However, it occurs to me that the double impurity might have served as a permission to protect girl rather than what might be interpreted as punitive. In conclusion, these antiquated notions in Tazria about girls and women made me consider what relevance this part of the Torah has to modern life. I realized it foresees the ongoing struggle for equality in a woman's right to choose, as well as inequities in childcare and healthcare. This is a complicated parsha with language and concepts that we should challenge so as not to perpetuate harmful stereotypes and sexist ideas in our reading of the Torah, but instead to promote views of girls and women as equal and strong. Shabbat Shalom.
Shakoach. Yashakoach. Yashakoach, Leo. Yashakoach, Leo.
Yashakoach, Leo.
Rabbi Timoner, if there are any other fourth grade parents besides Leo's who would like to make their way down for the fourth grade presentations, now would be the time to do so. Please follow me out the side door. Please follow me out the side door if you're in fourth grade.
All right. As the fourth grade parents make their way out, I just want to say Yasher Koach to Leo and Alice for your, yeah. So I have some words of response, though your words certainly can stand on their own, both of you. I'll start with you, Alice. I love what you did with this parsha. You brought in my friend, Rabbi Mike Rothbaum, who does lead a congregation also called Congregation Beth Elohim. The idea that a sick person is not described as a sick person, they're described as an Adam, a human. And that Sifra, that said the priest sees the person, it says twice, meaning that the person is seen as a human being, not just as a sick person. When someone is sick, as you taught us, there's just an easy possibility of reducing that person to their illness, to their condition, of failing to see them in their full humanity. This can happen as people age. It can happen as people are disabled. It can happen whenever a person is somehow stigmatized in a society and seen as other. People can stop listening to them. People can stop seeing them. And when there's mass illness like COVID, people can just become numbers. And we can forget the individuality, the full life that's there in that person. And they can become an undifferentiated mass. And that is a violation of their inherent dignity And Leo, then you applied this to the idea of women's equality. The beginning of the Parsha, as you said, we have an entirely different subject, and you made the case that when considering women after childbirth, the Torah does not treat them with the dignity, freedom that they deserve, that we deserve. That their impurity, which doubled if they give birth to a girl, and the resulting isolation, was about stigma. It was demeaning, it was isolating. And when you compound it with the patriarchal history of our own people and all societies on earth, it reinforces the objectification and constriction of women's lives, something we're continuing to battle today. So Alice and Leo, though you took on different topics, your ideas align. You both are concerned about a core principle of Judaism, the inherent, inalienable, and infinite dignity of every human being. Whether that person is sick or well, young or old, with or without disability, male or female or any gender. This is a core concept for us. And even though the Torah and our rabbis, then and now, often fall short of that standard, it is our standard. Genesis 1:27 tells us that every human being is created in the image of God, no exceptions. Mishnah Sanhedrin 4:5 tells us that God created humanity out of a single ancestor, Adam. Same word. So that no one would ever say, my ancestors were better than yours. That's what they say, the rabbis say. The reason we're created from a single ancestor, known as Adam, but Adam, is so that no one could ever say, my ancestors are better than yours. So that human beings would never rank themselves into false hierarchies. That text goes on to say that it is our diversity that is evidence of God's creative genius. And our diversity is what gives us infinite worth in our lives because there is no one else like us. There never has been and there never will be. Now, if you think about it, this concept is at the root of so many of the issues that we face in our world today. Whether it's women's sovereignty over our own bodies and the value of our lives, and the complex choice of terminating a life yet to be, or whether it's Black Lives Matter, which is simply an assertion of what should be obvious, or whether it's a murderous war of choice that is taking lives and destroying lives in Ukraine, or whether it's immigrant and refugee policy and whether we can see the foreigner or the stranger as equally deserving, or whether it's the dignity and respect owed to a Supreme Court nominee who is a Black woman, or whether it's the right to vote and the entire philosophy behind democracy, which is that every single citizen should have an equal say, or whether it's our response to climate change and whether we count the generations not yet born as equally deserving of life and health and safety and dignity, not to mention all other forms of life. I've been teaching our 10th graders about Jewish ideas about God. And in that process, I've introduced them to the ideas of Martin Buber. Martin Buber was born in Austria, but lived in Germany in the early 20th century, leaving there in 1938, just in time to move to Palestine, Israel. He was nominated, I don't know if you know this, even if you're familiar with Buber, he was nominated 10 times for the Nobel Prize in Literature and 7 times for the Nobel Peace Prize. He dedicated himself to Jewish education, and most famously wrote a book called I and Thou. In it, he tells us that we move through the world in 2 different kinds of mindsets. In one mindset, we relate to other people as an it. And when we do that, our I is affected. The way I see myself is affected by how I see you. And if I see other people as an it, I am reduced. I become only a fraction of my being. The second mindset is to relate to another person as a thou, meaning fully seeing and beholding that other person. And when I do that, the world of relation is established, he says. And the way I see myself is then shaped by that relation. I become more whole. I use my whole being in that relation, he says, when I behold another human being as a thou. These experiences of seeing another as a thou don't last long, he says. They're just brief glimpses, brief moments of relating to another person as a whole being with one's whole being. It doesn't last that long, but it enables us to then move through other moments of our lives poised to see the full dignity and personhood of others. I will not be here next Shabbat because I have the great privilege of taking our 9th and 10th grade classes on a trip to the south. There we will visit the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where John Lewis was beaten almost to death marching for the right to vote. We will visit the Equal Justice Initiative's lynching memorial and learn about the brutal history of lynching in this country. We'll go to the Rosa Parks Museum and learn about the Montgomery bus boycott. We'll go to the 16th Street Baptist Church, where a bomb set by racists killed 4 little girls. We go each year on this trip because we want to see firsthand the places where the 20th century struggle for civil rights was fought, to learn about the role of Jews in that struggle, and to consider our own role today in standing for human rights and dignity and equality. What Martin Buber would say about that effort, what parts of the Torah would say about that effort, the effort to create conditions by which every person can be seen and live in their full humanity, is that it makes us more whole. In 2 weeks, we will all sit around our Seder tables telling the story of our journey from slavery to freedom, our essential story that shapes our whole identity as a people, our whole purpose. We're each to see ourselves, the Haggadah tells us, as if we personally went free, so that we will bring that freedom, that aspiration based on inalienable human dignity to all who live on earth. Thank you for teaching us this, Alice and Leo. May we rise to your call. Shabbat Shalom. Now, it is Rosh Chodesh. As I mentioned before, it's Shabbat HaChodesh. And so to offer us, we're going to be praying now our blessing for the new month. And I invite you to please rise. And we have our cantorial intern, Jordan Goldstein, here to offer us this blessing.
Indeed. And can I implore you to hold our Torah? Wonderful. We are on page 379, if you would like to follow along.
Ratzon milfanecha, Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu Imotenu, Shetechadesh Aleinu et HaChodesh Hazeh Letova, Letova, Letova Velivracha. V'titen lanu Chaim, Chaim arukim, Chaim, Chaim shel shalom, Chaim, Chaim shel parnasa, Chaim shetevanu, Ahavat Torah, V'yirat Shamayim, Chaim sheyimalu, Mishalot libeinu letova. Amen. We read together.
Our God and God of our ancestors, may the new month bring us goodness and blessing. May we have long life, peace, prosperity, a life exalted by love of Torah and reverence for the divine, a life in which the longings of our hearts are fulfilled for good.
Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Hu Hayom, the new month of Nisan begins today. Dai Dainu, Dai Dainu, Dai Dainu, 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 Dai Dainu, Dai Dainu,
Please remain standing as Alice and Leo come join me at the ark as we return the Torah.
We're on page 374. Ki lekach tov natati lachem Torati al tazovu et chaimi lamachazikim ba We remain standing and turn to page 586 for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשונו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו כהמונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. שדיינו די 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 שדיינו על כן נקבל לך, על כן נקבל לך, על כן נקבל לך, אדוני אלוהינו, על כן נקבל לך, על כן נקבל לך, על כן נקבל לך, אדוני אלוהינו. לראות מהרה בתפארת עוזך, לתקן עולם. לראות מהרה בתפארת עוזך, במלכות שדי, שדי די 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 שדי ונאמן והיה אדוני למלך be seated.
We always conclude our time together by calling to heart and mind people we love whom we've lost, bringing our memories near and our loved ones. As we prepare to say Kaddish on this particular Shabbat, I want to name the 11 victims of terror attacks in Israel from this last week. Amir Chori, an Arab Israeli, was 32 years old. Rabbi Avishai Yechezkel was 29 years old. Rabbi Yaakov Shalom was 36 years old. Dmitry Mitrik, a Ukrainian citizen, was 31 years old. Viktor Sarokufot, a Ukrainian citizen living in Israel, was 23 years old. Shirel Abiokart was 19 years old. Vizan Falach, a Druze, was 19 years old. Laura Yitzhak was 43 years old. Rabbi Moshe Karbitsky was 50 years old. Dorit Yachbas was 49 years old. And Menachem Yechezkel was 67 years old. If you are in a period of grieving, if this is Shiva for you, if you're in the first week since the death of someone you love, I invite you to rise and tell us the name of the person you're remembering. And if you are in the first 30 days since the death of someone you love, if you're in Shloshim, I invite you to rise and tell us who you're remembering. And if you're in Shana, if you're in the first year, oh, please. And if you're in Shana in the first year, I invite you to rise and tell us who you're remembering. And if this is a yahrzeit, the anniversary of a death for you, I invite you to rise and tell us who you're remembering. And Leo's family is remembering his Debbie's stepfather, Richard Samuels. And we all rise in company with the mourners in our midst. And we remember these recent losses in our congregational community. Stanley Ferdig, father of Ira Ferdig, father of the Kate Whittles, and grandfather of Daniel and Maya. Wanda Quintana Herskowitz, wife of Michael Herskowitz, mother of Julianne and Annalise. Judith Parker, our member and wife of Stuart Parker, and mother of Sarah Green and Ned Parker. Cecile Brewer, grandmother of Talia Kovacs. Bernard Jeff Jeffrey, father of Peter and Nancy Jeffrey, father-in-law of Carla Weiss and Daniel Cohen, grandfather of Kate, Ilana, and Jessica. Ethel Weissman, grandmother of Brian Ezra. And these yahrzeits, Herbert Adasco, Albert Antel, Robert Aronson, Carol Bassbaum, Rika Bender, Louis Borrow, Teresa Bradley, Thea Braderman, Emmanuel Brandt, Gilbert Brown, Aaron Coffin, Hedwig Emanuel, Hyman Israel, Jenny Fellner, Murray Fink, Fanny Esther Flax, Mary Glassheim, Ada Goldman, Edward Grashow, Carrie Hamburger, Carolyn Jaffe, Ida Karish, Rosalind Kaufman, Robert Kaufman, David Kite, Isaac Kowalski, Paul Levy, Robert Levy, Max Meyer, Mark Mishkin, Selma Oppenheim, Naravi Payne, Esther Reibstein, Matilda Roseman, Sarah Puzzle Rosenbaum, Hyman Rosenson, Jane Rothbart, Jacqueline Rubin, Harry Rubin, Alan Sack, Daniel Schmeidler, Isaac Silverstein, Abraham Sturzelbeck, Alexander Tobias, and Nathan Urich. Holding all of them together, we say Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be an everlasting blessing. We turn to the page, to the Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute. B'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayedecho Beit Yisrael. Ba'agalau v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam olalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmeid kudesha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. May the one who makes peace make peace for all who mourn. And we say together, Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru. Amen.
Mazel tov to Leo and to Alice and to your family and friends. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We're going to say goodbye to the Zoom. Say Shabbat Shalom to you. We're going to, in a moment, turn to Kiddush and Motzi. We're going to turn first to our blessing of the morning, a blessing of Shabbat.
Indeed.
Go ahead.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asod et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam.
I invite you to make your way over to the Kiddush tables on both sides. There's going to be Kiddush blessing in a moment. Shabbat Shalom all as we sing.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asod.
Alice's family and friends, you're heading across the street.
l'dorotam berit olam.